And a Fox's alert on the disturbances in the Ukraine. There right now is an uneasy truce that appears to be playing out for the moment there. That, of course, after the country's Russian-backed president and the opposition pushing for democracy signed a deal. But, of course, the big question, will that deal hold? Can they make it stick, or will there be any more deadly outbursts as we have been so sadly seeing on our television screens over the past few days? European mediators who helped hammer out that deal say that it does open the way for reform and comes one day after the worst violence in this months-long crisis. And those images, stunning to the world, the wanton carnage, the savage slaughter of people fighting on the streets for democracy and freedom. Amy Kellogg, live in Moscow, with more. Amy?
Hi, Eric. Well, the big question is, will this deal be enough for the hardcore protesters who are still manning the barricades? One of the EU foreign ministers who was toiling through the night to get this deal brokered between the various sides was caught on someone's camera saying to one of the protesters, look, this is the best you're going to get. If it's not this, it will be martial law and you will all be dead. Now, what has been agreed so far is a change back to the old Constitution, and that would limit presidential powers. There will be early elections, and an interim government will be put together within the next 10 days or so. Already, Parliament has voted back that old Constitution formally. It's agreed to remove the Interior Minister, which was one of the demands of the protesters. It's voted for amnesty for those who were detained for protest activity, and it has also voted to free Yulia Tymoshenko, the former prime minister who was jailed by President Yanukovych some years ago for corruption, but whose imprisonment was viewed by much of the international community as politically motivated. That would still need to be signed off on by the president, however. Now, as this news was celebrated by some, the deep wounds of grief are still incredibly fresh. The funeral for a journalist killed this week who was beaten and shot by an unknown group was held today. Vyacheslav Veremy was hurt earlier in the protest back in January with stun grenade shrapnel and was then killed Tuesday on his first day back to work. Finally, there's been an outpouring of volunteerism since the troubles began, and this is still going strong. Many people are still in the hospital recovering from wounds, and given the circumstances, many need different types of assistance. This monastery was turned into a temporary assistance center where medical services are being offered. Now, the White House, Eric, has said that those who were involved in the violence need to be held to account for it. At the same time, it's interesting that Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that those radicals, and they've been calling the protesters radicals, extremists, kind of militant fighters, they need to be singled out and criticized by the Western powers. Eric, back to you.
Amy, it is so tragic and sad. It reminds us of the cherished freedoms that we hold dear here in our country, that some people there have died for. Amy Kellogg, live in Moscow. Thank you. Jamie?
You're absolutely right, Eric, but there is what is being called a miracle in Kiev. There was a medic that was shot in the throat who actually survived after tweeting, "I am dying." She was working as a volunteer amid the fierce clashes we've been reporting. Moments later, though, she lost consciousness, and we can report she received emergency surgery, and she actually survived. The next tweet today saying, "I am alive, thanks to everyone who supports and prays for me." Amazing story.
Oh, that is wonderful that she did survive.